Hello everyone and welcome to our newest update video. My name is Jake the Voice Parr and I'm the writer for the Timesplitters Rewind team. Okay, so let's look at our last update video. That was a fair bit of a while ago. Since March, we've been hard at work at reordering our priorities. Now, thanks to Alfred Turner's diligence with the core gameplay systems, we've been able to shift our focus towards art. This update video will showcase some of the work from the art team as well as a few other surprises that we've tucked away. It kinda goes without saying that this year has been a bit of a slog. Timesplitters Rewind is a project met with many tribulations, and the art team this year has faced many trials. We'll go into a bit more detail later. Since the March update, we've recruited several new members of the team, which includes 3 level designers, a character artist, as well as an environment artist who worked briefly on Timesplitters Rewind. More details on that later, but for now let's take a brief look at some of the work-in-progress shots of some of the levels that we've been working on. Now keep in mind these are simply blockouts and they've not been touched by artists. It's just a mere peek at the progress we've made so far. So, as you saw, we've completed blockouts for Compound, Chinese, Cyberden, Streets, Docks, Tomb, Chemical Plant, Village, and Mall. That's 9 out of 18, which means we've done blockouts for half of the maps in Timesplitters 1. Now, this has been very exciting for us, but it has led us into a bit more of a dilemma. Again, more on that later. In addition to the weapons we showcased in March, we've also begun working on other weapons seen throughout the first game, including the Tommy gun, as well as the minigun. Other weapons are in progress as well, but they're not exactly in a state where we can show them. With the inclusion of new weapons, we've also created several new characters from varying portions of the series, with the new goal of creating characters only from levels relevant to our release plan. Just hold on for now and we will be going into detail about said release plan later. Our 2D artist, William, has also been working hard on creating a multitude of UI and other 2D assets. As you can see here, we've been starting to integrate original assets in place for old placeholder UI, ranging from our in-game menus as well as weapon and ammo HUD. Of course, keeping in mind that these are all a work in progress. Now, before showing off our primary progress, just want to clarify something first. Some of you who have been following the project for many years will know that there have been models that came and went. Now, these range from Training Ground, Compound, Chinese, Warzone Castle, and much more. With that being said, we're not going to be using any of the old content. Some of it is due to a lack of compatibility, some with changes to our system requirement goals, and other reasons. Now, this was not an easy decision for us, but our new content, we believe, will be worth the change. That being said, you're probably thinking, so what is the new content? I'll just let the videos speak for themselves. we're incredibly excited to have finished the majority of our goals for these 2 environments, and our next update video will showcase these in a different light that I hope you'll all be excited to see. But that, of course, will be for another time. Before moving on to some of our final content, I want to take a step back and point something out. Timesplitters Rewind is a very tough project. It's essentially a AAA undertaking with less than an indie backing. This is no secret at this point, as this project has been in development for, well, since this video's release, over 7 whole years. I bring this up because in the last wave of content, we've had people working cross-disciplines. For example, Samuel Freeman is one of our character artists, along with Alfred Turner. In order to counter the sheer scope of the project, we've shifted their priorities onto environment art. In addition, Cameron Williams, the level designer, literally learned environment art in order to contribute to those 2 levels, and actually did a majority of what was seen there. With all of that being said, we really need environment artists on the team. And if you have any experiences with anything of the sort, then please reach out to us on the Discord link, which will be popping below. We'll go into a bit more detail about recruitment later. You may have recognized that from Timesplitters 1. Well, you guessed right, folks, we've got Timesplitters 1 story working. Of course, we're just using a test environment at the moment, but the functionality is there. So for our last showcase in this update, before explaining some other things per tradition, we have made a rather significant change to a game mode you may remember from the first Timesplitters game. This was based on some choices from the team to have a more multiplayer-focused experience. We think you'll like our choice, but keep in mind, this is just a work in progress. So for now, we'll be doing a default setup of Last Stand on Training Ground. So in Last Stand on Timesplitters 1, the player is simply tasked with defending their barrels against wave-spawning AI. They'll often target the individual barrels. For Rewind, we decided to take a more survival approach. Players will fight for survival against wave after wave of enemies. I'll let the gameplay briefly speak for itself. Of course, playing this solo is a little bit different, but the functionality is also still there. So that's the new content we have to talk about for this year, but before we end this video, we want to briefly talk about the project as a whole. With the fact that this is a project that has been in development for so long with a high amount of hurdles, recent announcements separate from Rewind and more, we've decided that we are going to have less content available at launch, but that means we will be able to release it sooner. The current plan is to have what we consider to be a feasible amount of content with functioning systems and gameplay. This release will include some of the content that you saw here and more in some areas, less in others. That means that while we have 9 blockouts done, we are nowhere near having 9 completed environments. We will only ship with completed content, and will continue progress on other content for subsequent releases. This is important because it allows us to release the game so that people can get their hands on it, with the idea that, in case something happens to the project, at least there is something that can be played by you and the rest of the Timesplitters fans. That being said, expect to hear more of that later on. We're not going to be providing any sort of dates because we know that's not really worked too well in the past. However, all we're going to say is please keep your eyes peeled. The rest of this update will be focused on the overall state of the project, recruitment, and a bit of opening up. So if that interests you, then please stay tuned. If not, thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for our next update. So let's break down 2019 for Timesplitters Rewind. Starting with the news from last year, THQ Nordic acquired the Timesplitters IP as stated in many articles. We just want to say right here that this has not affected development in any way up to this point, so ideally we can put that to rest. Leading up to 2019, we haven't put out much content in a long time, and our March update far surpassed our expectations. The sheer amount of passion the Timesplitters community has shown for this project is extremely encouraging for us, and we're really glad to see such positive reception. That being said, after our March update, we have recruited 6 new members, 2 of which had to leave. While unfortunate, I'd also like to point out that some of the impact this project has on the lives of developers. Several developers on this project have gone on to work at massive AAA studios, other at smaller indie game studios, but the one thing in common is that Timesplitters Rewind has helped them get there. There are others who continue to work on the project simply in their free time. This project is valuable. As long as there's people wanting this to happen, then we can still keep going. That being said, we need your help to release this thing. Honestly, the project may never see the light of day without some extra hands in the pot, so the 2 that we've mentioned who left our project were people with primary experience doing environment art for the team. Even then, with that being the case, you may have noticed a lot of repeating names during the credits. That is because, as always with Rewind, the bulk of the work primarily falls on particular individuals for various reasons, so our goal is to limit that, especially on the environment art side. This is the area we need filled the most, but we are welcoming to anyone who has a skill set that could come in handy for the team though. This ranges from level design, environment art, blueprints/C++ programming, 2D art, character animation, V-model animation, character modeling, eventually Q&A testing, technical designers, and much, much more. Please join our Discord and make a post in either the portfolio or development recruitment page so that we can get in touch. With all that being said, we are extremely excited about the future of this project. Thank you very much everyone who has checked out this update video. Hopefully we'll have another one sooner than the last. And so, to quote Sergeant Cortez, it's time to split.